Did you know that the average American walks less than any other developed nation's citizens? It's not just about laziness, it's by design. In some U.S. cities, walking to get a gallon of milk can mean risking your life on roads without sidewalks or crosswalks. Despite 79% of Americans saying walkability is important, most cities offer little to no safe, convenient pedestrian infrastructure. Let's count down America's 10 least walkable cities places, where getting around on 2 feet isn't just inconvenient, it's practically impossible. 10. Jacksonville, Florida. Welcome to Jacksonville, Florida's sprawling metropolis that happens to be the largest city by area in the contiguous United States. Size matters here, but not in a good way if you're a pedestrian. Jacksonville's expansive layout prioritizes cars above all else, with wide highways cutting through fragmented neighborhoods. The city boasts one of the lowest walk scores among large U.S. cities, with most neighborhoods scoring below 50, firmly in the car-dependent category. Sure, recent years have brought some investment in downtown revitalization, but these improvements are like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. Downtown and San Marco districts offer modest walkability, but venture beyond these small pockets and you're in car country. Only about 15% of Jacksonville residents live within a 10-minute walk of a park, and less than 5% of job centers are accessible by public transit or walking. With limited public transit and bike infrastructure, residents have little choice but to drive even for the simplest errands. And if Jacksonville's poor walkability seems bad, wait until you see what's happening in our next city, where pedestrians face even more challenges in a landscape designed almost exclusively for vehicles. Number 9, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Oklahoma City sprawls across the plains with a clear message: get a car or get left behind. This city's rapid growth prioritized highways over humans, creating vast distances between destinations that make walking impractical at best and dangerous at worst. Most neighborhoods score below 40 on the walk score scale, placing them firmly in the car-dependent category. While downtown and the Bricktown Entertainment District have seen improvements with a riverwalk and pedestrian-friendly zones, these are islands in a sea of unwalkable development. The city's sidewalk network resembles a jigsaw puzzle with most of the pieces missing. Protected bike lanes? Those are about as common as palm trees in Oklahoma. Public transit covers only limited areas, leaving most residents with no choice but to drive. What's particularly striking about Oklahoma City is how its development pattern reinforces car dependency. With an average of 9.4 miles between residents and essential services, even the most dedicated walker would struggle to complete daily errands on foot. Perhaps most telling is this statistic: over 97% of Oklahoma City residents commute by car. That's not preference, it's necessity in a place where walkability was an afterthought, if it was thought of at all. Think Oklahoma City is challenging for pedestrians? Just wait until we reveal our next city, where walking isn't just difficult, it might actually put your life at risk. 8. Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham's relationship with walkability is complicated, and by complicated, I mean practically non-existent. This historic southern city was once a bustling industrial center, but its modern development has created a pedestrian's nightmare. With a walk score hovering around 35, Birmingham ranks as one of the least pedestrian-friendly cities in America. The city's hilly topography might provide beautiful views, but it also creates natural barriers that discourage walking, especially when combined with suburban sprawl that puts essential services miles from residential areas. Birmingham's pedestrian infrastructure tells a story of neglect. Only 38% of the city has adequate sidewalks, and these are concentrated in downtown and a few historical neighborhoods. Venture into most residential areas, and sidewalks disappear faster than your Uber driver when you have groceries. Public transit in Birmingham is limited at best. The MAX transit system covers only a fraction of the metropolitan area, with infrequent service that makes car-free living nearly impossible for most residents. Perhaps most concerning is Birmingham's pedestrian safety record. The city consistently ranks among the most dangerous for pedestrians, with a fatality rate 2.5 times the national average. Walking here isn't just inconvenient, it can be deadly. Birmingham's car dependence has created a cycle that's hard to break. Fewer pedestrians mean less political will for walkable infrastructure, which means fewer pedestrians. But if you think breaking this cycle seems tough in Birmingham, wait until you see the challenges pedestrians face in our next city. 7. Nashville, Tennessee. Music City might hit all the right notes when it comes to entertainment, but it's wildly out of tune when it comes to walkability. Nashville's explosive growth over the past decade has created a sprawling metropolitan area where cars are king and pedestrians are, well, just in the way. With a walk score of just 28, Nashville ranks as one of America's most car-dependent major cities. The city's limited sidewalk network covers less than 40% of streets, and those sidewalks that do exist often end abruptly or are poorly maintained. Nashville's public transportation system is woefully inadequate for a city of its size. Despite several failed attempts to develop light rail, residents are left with a bus system that serves only limited areas with infrequent service. No wonder 91% of Nashville commuters drive to work. The city's pedestrian safety record is equally concerning. Nashville consistently ranks among the most dangerous cities for pedestrians, with pedestrian fatalities increasing 37% between 2016 and 2022. What makes Nashville particularly frustrating is that it has so much potential. The downtown area and neighborhoods like 12 South and East Nashville have pockets of walkability, but they remain isolated islands in a sea of car-centric development. The city's 2017 walk-in bike plan promised improvements, but implementation has been slow and piecemeal at best. Nashville's rapid growth could have been an opportunity to create a more walkable city. Instead, development has largely followed the same old car-dependent patterns. And if you think Nashville's missed opportunities are disappointing, wait until you see how our next city has actively resisted pedestrian-friendly development. You know what's amazing? The number of viewers who tell me they've made life-changing decisions after watching these videos. Don't miss out on content that could change your perspective forever. Hit subscribe and tap that bell icon right now. Our community is growing fast, and trust me, you'll want to be part of the conversation happening in the comments of every new upload. Number 6, Fort Worth, Texas. While its neighbor Dallas has made strides toward walkability, Fort Worth remains firmly committed to the car. This Texas city, often overshadowed by Dallas and the Metroplex, stands out for all the wrong reasons when it comes to pedestrian friendliness. With a walk score of just 35, Fort Worth firmly belongs in the car-dependent category. The city's development pattern epitomizes sprawl, with vast distances between residential areas and essential services. The average resident needs to travel nearly 3.5 miles to reach the nearest grocery store, a distance that makes walking impractical for most. Fort Worth's pedestrian infrastructure is spotty at best. Only 40% of streets have sidewalks, and these are concentrated in the downtown area and a few historic neighborhoods. The rest of the city features wide, high-speed roads with minimal crosswalks and no buffer between pedestrians and traffic. Public transit in Fort Worth is limited to a bus system that serves only the most populated areas with infrequent service. The TexRail commuter line connects downtown to DFW Airport, but it does little to help residents complete daily errands without a car. Perhaps most telling is this statistic. Less than 1.5% of Fort Worth residents walk or use public transit for their daily commute. That's not cultural preference. It's the result of infrastructure that makes car-free living nearly impossible. While the Stockyards District and Sundance Square offer walkable enclaves, these touristy areas stand in stark contrast to the car-dependent reality for most residents. And if Fort Worth's indifference to pedestrians seems problematic, wait until you see how our next city has actually designed walking out of the equation entirely. Number 5, Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte's rapid growth has created a banking powerhouse, but its transportation infrastructure hasn't kept pace with its economic development. This booming southern city has expanded outward rather than upward, creating distances too vast for all but the most determined pedestrians. With a walk score of just 26, Charlotte is firmly in the car-dependent category. The city's development pattern features disconnected subdivisions, office parks, and shopping centers spread across a vast area with few pedestrian connections between them. Charlotte's sidewalk network is woefully inadequate, covering less than 50% of streets. Even where sidewalks exist, they often lack shade, benches, or buffers from traffic, making walking uncomfortable and sometimes dangerous. The city ranks among the 20 most dangerous for pedestrians, with fatality rates well above the national average. Public transit in Charlotte consists primarily of a single light rail line and a bus system that serves limited areas with infrequent service. While the Blue Line light rail has spurred walkable development along its corridor, these improvements represent a tiny fraction of the metropolitan area. Perhaps most revealing is how Charlotte's development code has historically prioritized cars. Until recently, the city required large parking minimums for all new development and setbacks that pushed buildings away from the street, creating unwelcoming spaces for pedestrians. Charlotte's Uptown District offers some walkability, but venture beyond this small urban core, and you're in territory designed exclusively for cars. And if Charlotte's reluctance to embrace pedestrian-friendly development seems short-sighted, wait until you see how our next city has turned walking into an extreme sport. That's before Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis might be the home of the blues, but for pedestrians, it's more about the blues of dodging traffic on roads without sidewalks. This historic city along the Mississippi has fallen behind when it comes to creating safe spaces for those traveling on foot. With a walk score of just 37, Memphis lands firmly in the car-dependent category. But even this low score masks deeper problems. Memphis has one of the highest pedestrian fatality rates in the nation, making it not just inconvenient to walk here, it's dangerous. Memphis's pedestrian infrastructure is severely lacking, with only about 45% of streets having sidewalks. Even where sidewalks exist, they're often in poor condition, interrupted by driveways, or simply end without warning. Crosswalks are few and far between on many major arterials, forcing pedestrians to make dangerous mid-block crossings. Public transit in Memphis is limited to a bus system that serves primarily low-income areas with infrequent service, and a single trolley line that functions more as a tourist attraction than practical transportation. With limited options, it's no surprise that over 93% of Memphis residents commute by car. What makes Memphis particularly challenging for pedestrians is the combination of poor infrastructure and high poverty rates. Many residents can't afford cars, but live in neighborhoods where walking is dangerous and public transit is inadequate. This creates a serious equity issue that impacts quality of life and economic opportunity. While historic districts like Beale Street in South Main offer some walkability, most of Memphis remains hostile territory for pedestrians. And if Memphis's neglect of pedestrian infrastructure seems problematic, wait until you see how our next city has actively designed danger into its streets. The 3. Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas City might be famous for its barbecue and jazz, but walkability, not so much. This Midwestern metropolis sprawls across the Missouri-Kansas border with a development pattern that all but requires car ownership. With a walk score of just 35, Kansas City firmly belongs in the car-dependent category. The city covers an enormous geographic area, 315 square miles, within city limits alone, with low-density development that puts significant distance between homes, jobs, and services. Kansas City's pedestrian infrastructure leaves much to be desired. Only about 42% of streets have sidewalks, and these are often in poor condition or disconnected from a larger network. The city's wide boulevards were designed for moving cars quickly, not for creating safe spaces for pedestrians. Public transit in Kansas City consists primarily of a bus system with limited coverage and a single streetcar line that runs just 2.2 miles through downtown. This leaves most residents with no practical alternative to driving. What makes Kansas City particularly challenging for pedestrians is how its infrastructure reflects decades of prioritizing cars. The city has more freeway lane miles per capita than almost any other major American city, and its abundance of surface parking lots creates dead zones that pedestrians must navigate between destinations. While the downtown Crossroads and Country Club Plaza districts offer some walkability, These pockets represent a tiny fraction of the metropolitan area. Kansas City's recent investments in its streetcar have shown promise, but they're a drop in the bucket compared to the scale of car dependency throughout the region. And if Kansas City's vast distances seem challenging for pedestrians, just wait until you see how our next city has created an environment where walking isn't just difficult, it's practically forbidden. Then here's to Arlington, Texas. Welcome to Arlington, the largest city in America with no public transportation system. This Dallas-Fort Worth suburb of nearly 400,000 residents has achieved the dubious distinction of being almost entirely unwalkable by design. With a walk score of just 25, Arlington ranks among the least walkable cities in the nation. Its development pattern exemplifies post-war suburban sprawl, with vast distances between residential areas and commercial districts, wide high-speed arterials, and a complete absence of pedestrian-scale development. Arlington's pedestrian infrastructure is virtually non-existent in many areas. Less than 50% of streets have sidewalks, and these are often disconnected from any larger network. Pedestrian crossings on major roads are few and far between, sometimes spaced a mile or more apart. Perhaps most striking is Arlington's complete lack of a fixed-route public transit system. After years of failed pilot programs and voter rejections of transit funding, Arlington relies on on-demand services and rideshare programs that do little to reduce car dependency. Arlington has the unfortunate distinction of being a city where major attractions, including AT&T Stadium, home of the Dallas Cowboys, Globe Life Field, Texas Rangers, and Six Flags Over Texas, are surrounded by vast parking lots with minimal pedestrian access. Visitors without cars find themselves stranded in a landscape designed exclusively for driving. Recent years have seen modest improvements near the University of Texas at Arlington campus, but these remain isolated exceptions in a city that has built car dependency into its DNA. And if Arlington's complete lack of transit seems extreme, wait until you see our #1 least walkable city, a place where pedestrians are treated like unwelcome intruders. Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix takes the crown as America's least walkable major city, a dubious distinction earned through decades of car-centric planning and a fierce resistance to pedestrian-friendly development. With a walk score of just 33, Phoenix firmly belongs in the car-dependent category. But this score actually flatters a city where walking is not just difficult, it's actively dangerous. Phoenix consistently ranks among the deadliest cities in America for pedestrians, with fatality rates far exceeding the national average. The city's urban form is a pedestrian's nightmare. 6-lane arterial roads spaced a mile apart, minimal crosswalks, and vast distances between destinations. The average block in Phoenix is 4 times larger than in traditional walkable cities, creating journeys too long for all but the most determined pedestrians. Phoenix's sidewalk network is woefully inadequate, covering only about 40% of streets. Even where sidewalks exist, they often lack shade, a critical issue, in a city where summer temperatures regularly exceed 110 degrees Celsius. Walking a quarter mile can become a health hazard during Phoenix's brutal summer months. Public transit in Phoenix consists primarily of a bus system with limited coverage and a single light rail line that serves only a narrow corridor. With most of the metropolitan area unreachable by transit, car ownership is essentially mandatory for full participation in society. What makes Phoenix particularly striking is how its car dependency has become self-reinforcing. Parking minimums have created vast asphalt deserts throughout the city, pushing buildings further apart and creating hostile environments for pedestrians. Wide roads encourage high speeds, increasing danger for anyone not in a vehicle. While downtown Phoenix and areas near the light rail have seen some pedestrian-friendly development in recent years, these represent tiny islands in a vast sea of unwalkable sprawl. The city's Vision Zero plan aims to eliminate pedestrian deaths by 2030, but with minimal funding and political will, progress has been painfully slow. Phoenix embodies the culmination of decades of car-centric planning, a cautionary tale of what happens when cities are designed exclusively around automobiles rather than people. America's least walkable cities aren't just inconvenient for pedestrians. They shape entire lifestyles and communities. In these cities, car dependency becomes mandatory, affecting everything from personal finances to public health. For residents, living in these unwalkable places means spending thousands more annually on transportation. It means fewer opportunities for physical activity integrated into daily routines. It means social isolation for those who can't drive, including children, the elderly, and people with disabilities. These unwalkable cities also face significant economic and environmental challenges. Their spread-out nature makes infrastructure maintenance more expensive while generating more pollution per capita than denser, more walkable cities. But there's hope on the horizon. Even the least walkable cities are beginning to recognize the benefits of pedestrian-friendly development. Small pockets of walkability are emerging in downtown areas, and many cities have adopted complete streets policies aimed at accommodating all road users, not just drivers. Which of these unwalkable cities surprised you the most? Have you experienced the challenges of car dependency firsthand? The conversation about how we design our cities is just beginning, and your voice matters in shaping a future where walking isn't just possible, it's pleasant. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to join us for our next exploration of the hidden forces shaping American life. Until then, maybe take a walk, if your city allows it.